Yes, I act like that was my first time to talk today, but nothing came out.
You just came in from, what is it, like 18-degree wind chill, doing a little yoga outside?
Yes, and it was very cold. So I'm very appreciative of this blanket and the heater you have on.
Yeah.
Our little floor heater, whatever that's called.
I'm wondering, it's a space heater, but I'm wondering if that space heater is...
Too loud?
Too loud. Probably not, since our vocal mics are really good. We're probably fine. But yeah, I had that on. I forgot because I'd done a little polar plunge today. My feet were cold after work. I did the workout after the polar plunge, and man, everything, all the blood is going to my major organs, so the extremities suffer.
Are you freezing?
My feet were.
Well, it's good to be home.
Yes, it is.
We had a big weekend.
A big weekend. So tell everybody about our weekend. What do we do?
Well, we went to the EXO marriage conference in...
A big hey to Brandon and Lindsay Charles. We're just going to call you guys out.
They are going to be listening, I promise. They always make us feel good when we talk to them. We're like, in that latest episode.
When we did our XO marriage mediation certification training, they were there. That's where we met them.
They were at our table.
And tell them what they did for us.
Well, it was very, very sweet. They asked, what are y'all doing over Valentine's weekend? And I said, well, I don't really know. I said, we're trying to figure out a date. We usually do something. We didn't get to do it this year, but y'all let us know if you want us to do this again. For several years, we've done a special thing at Valentine's Day where we make dinner. Brian makes his famous spaghetti sauce, and I make my mom's Italian salad, and we just have a really nice dinner and invite any ladies over who think that Valentine's sucks. Like they don't love it. So anyway, we were trying to figure out what night we might do that. Well, when Brandon and Lindsay asked, what are y'all doing over Valentine's weekend? We said, we're not really sure. We're trying to figure out, the date, blah, blah, blah. And they said, well, if you don't have hard and fast plans, we have plans for you. We bought extra tickets to the marriage conference. We have a couple of nights at the Westin in South Lake. Hey. And dinner reservations on Thursday night. Yep. And we said, you know what? Let's do it.
We're doing it.
I think more and more you and I are trying to say yes when it's, makes sense to say yes.
It's been about probably, 7-8 years since we had been to an EXO marriage conference. Mm-hmm. And we really do like doing something at least once a year to invest into our own marriage. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, we've just been doing lots of other things and we haven't done that one. And so, man, to get that invitation and then get that sweet gift, and more than anything, just the sweet gift of their new friendship. Yeah. Man, what a great couple.
Yeah. So I'm excited too, because soon and very soon we are going to have them on the podcast.
Yes.
So they live in Arkansas, but because of technology, we're going to be able to do that online with them.
We're going to have a little Zoom call and have them on the podcast talking about the value of the marriage mediation that we just became certified in. And when people hear the word mediation, they usually think of divorce mediation. And this is reconciliation mediation. And they have a incredible story to tell. They have an incredible testimony about what that did for them. And what a great couple.
Yes.
So thank you guys. And we can't wait for you guys to meet them and hear their story.
Yeah. So thank you, Brandon and Lindsay, again for a wonderful weekend.
So, you walk into this place and the marriage conference, and there's, I think they said 2,000 couples were there. 2,000 couples. So first, guys, if you're thinking, oh my gosh, like I would never go to that kind of thing. You could see the look on the guys' faces when we're all walking in. It's like there was everything from like panic to disgust to what the heck am I doing here? And, I kind of felt a little bit of that myself, maybe a lot of that myself. And it's like, there's just so many people. And, and yeah, if you were dragged kicking and screaming to that deal, or if you've ever been dragged kicking and screaming to a deal, you know that, once you got there and once you went through it, and you sometimes they say you get out of something what you put into it. But even if you didn't really, put much into it, if you just halfway, you just opened yourself up just to receiving, good night. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Just what we got. And we're going to talk about some of the things that we heard, some of the things that we learned, some of the things that we were reminded of, and some, a lot of the speakers will say these aren't maybe earth-shattering, groundbreaking, profound truths that I'm going to share with you or something you've never heard, but the reminder of how important they are. And just to put them into practice.
Yeah.
You can hear all kinds of things. And then as Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians, you're walking away and forgetting what you just saw in that mirror. But so just learning some of the practical ways that you can implement some of these things, but more than anything, being inspired again to do it. Yeah.
And I think even just being in a space for, a couple of days where people are focused on making their marriages better.
Yeah.
We get involved in work or what's going on in the world around us or politics or just whatever showing up on TikTok, or on the news. And so your brain is just always on that, you're kind of on stress overload. And so to take 2 days away and to see all of these couples in the room that are focused on wanting to grow in their marriage and just spend some fun time away. So that to me was just encouraging. It's like what you focus on grows. And so if you're focused on the negative that's happening in the world or, the negative that's going on in your marriage, but for those 2 days, you pull away with all those couples who probably have a million other things to be doing.
Right.
Most of them were younger than us. And so, they had to have kids taken care of and, all the things, and they did it.
The demographic was all over the board.
Yeah,
it really was. Sometimes you may think that may, again, just for whoever's out there listening that thinks, man, should I go? Would it be a bunch of younger couples? There were tons of people that were our age or older even, just because, were most of them, I just think in most rooms we go to now, matter of fact, well, I was going to say people are younger than us because we're old farts. But one thing they did not do, they did the who's been married the shortest time. That couple who stood up that had been married less than, what was it?
2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
But I wish they would have done the who's been married the longest kind of thing, because that would have been fun.
Yeah.
You're getting up there, 35 years.
I know, 36 years in
36
June.
coming. Yep. So I wanted you to share some of the takeaways and just some of the things that you were inspired by, some of the things you learned, some of the things that really made an impact. And let's just go kind of back and forth on that.
Okay.
I know you took some notes. I took some notes. I think you took maybe more than I did, but I'm going to lean on you.
Okay.
Because once you remind me, of some of the things, then we can, let's jump in.
Okay. So, one of the things that I was encouraged, one of the first, I guess he was the first speaker, talked about the triangle of, like the ingredients of love. And he talked about this triangle of your relationship, what builds a really strong marriage. And so if you think of it as a triangle, one side is the passion, one side is the intimacy, and then one side is the commitment. And so he said you can think of it as like the hot, warm, and cold. So the hot is the passion. That's the biological. The other side of the triangle, the intimacy, is warm, and that's emotional. And then the bottom part of the triangle is commitment. And he said that's the cold. So like the days, that's your, that's the will side of it. So on the days that it's, you're not feeling the passion or you're not feeling the intimacy, that it's that commitment that holds you together,
One of the things that struck me about that, by the way, you heard her say the first speaker and we're not going to, mention some of the names of all. I think we'll mention a few of them, but we just don't want you to get hung up in case you've heard of these people or don't like them. We don't want you to have any bias against the people and not get the good stuff out of it. I will say this was Dr. Les Parrott. So we've heard of Dr. Les and Leslie Parrott. Mm-hmm. And this guy, I love him. So we had heard of them like 20 years ago with one of their books that they wrote, but this was good stuff. And what his main point that I took away with that love is very fluid. It's not the same. The passion's not consistent. Intimacy is not the consistent. Mm-hmm. And your commitment, I mean, even though that's the most important thing, when these other things aren't, that's got to be consistent. But he said, you know what? That's not consistent. Mm-hmm. So he talked about how fluid it is, and so the energy level or investment is so important. That's the one on the cold, the commitment. How important that is, especially when those other two are waning. Mm-hmm. And so going back full circle to your point about just investing in a weekend. Yeah. So that's just it, when that enthusiasm or energy level just not there for your marriage, saying, I'm going to do this. That gave us, it's like a shot in the arm and a big booster as far as the commitment. Yeah.
It did. And I appreciated how he talked about commitment. Sometimes it does feel like just gutting it out. That's the thing that when the others are kind of waning, that your commitment, you just gut it out. But he said commitment actually is the energy level that you're bringing to the relationship. So if you find yourself just gutting it out, all the time, time for a tune-up or an overhaul. But I appreciated how he said it's not just the gutting it out, like commitment, like I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to divorce. What is the energy level that you're bringing to your marriage, and how can you up that just a little bit?
Right. So then he showed the inverted bell curve of marital satisfaction. And so you just picture your curve. So on the left axis is satisfaction, and then time on the bottom. And so it said, he's talking about how obviously marriages start, in the honeymoon phase at that initial falling in love and that initial attraction. So you're way up in the top left of that graph. You're way up at the top.
Way satisfied.
And then he talks about how the arrows, as time goes, the arrows just started going down. And then as it goes to the right, down there, right there in the middle of that graph, at the bottom, again, the inverted bell curve, was that the lowest level of satisfaction. And he talked about how many couples, that's when they bail. That's when they quit. And what they don't see is that if you follow that bell curve, so you made it through the difficulties. You didn't quit. You got the help. You had the kids and you drifted apart during raising kids if you didn't, really invest in each other. The empty nest came and you didn't know each other because you never invested in your marriage and you bailed in. But if you actually do the work and commit, he talked about how satisfaction, as it goes, time goes, and you've gone from the bottom of that bell curve, all of a sudden it starts going up, up. And as it goes to the right, it goes up. Higher levels of satisfaction are reported in couples, even higher. Once you stick it out, you've made it in, for the long haul, these 35 and 45 and 55 year married couples, their satisfaction level is up higher than when they started. And that is reported. That is all the time. And people don't know that because obviously they didn't experience it. They quit. Yeah. So that was so cool to see.
Yeah. I just felt like that was so encouraging because all throughout his talk, you just felt he normalized when you feel that kind of blah feeling, like when if you're not completely satisfied, or if you don't feel that deep intimacy, or if the passion is kind of gone, like that's okay. That's normal. The best of couples go through seasons like that. And so I think that's why we kind of carry the banner and say, don't give up, until you've turned over every rock and, gone to a conference or gone to a retreat or gotten some help, talked to somebody, because I think sometimes what happens is people start to feel that lull, like the satisfaction goes down. They're kind of on that downward spiral of the bell curve. And they start to fall prey to, oh gosh, I can't live the rest of my life like this. This is horrible. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. They talk to friends who are like, no, you deserve better. You know, life doesn't have to be, you know, you can, or they watch, you know, read books or watch, you know, The Bachelor, watch movies that make you feel like, wow, the grass is greener on that side. Maybe I do need to think of, you know, getting out of this marriage or whatever. And, you know, I think what I received from his talk the most was like, all that's normal to feel that, and get some help, you know, before you just throw in the towel. I'm not saying it's always going to last forever with everybody. You know, there are reasons why people aren't going to stay together.
Right.
But I think there are marriages, there are relationships that could be saved if they didn't fall prey to, is this as good as it's going to get? Mm-hmm. It's that trajectory can start going up again.
Yeah.
You know, that satisfaction can increase. You can forgive. You can, you know, there will be better days ahead, you know?
You said something real key, and that's why we laugh so hard. It's like these people up there, they're not trying to be comedians. I mean, some of them are, you know, and some of them are just naturally really funny, you know, and they've done this enough to where, you know, they know the hot buttons that are going to get all the laughs, you know, all the things to win a woman, you know, write her love notes and you know, bring her flowers, bring her candy, you know, share openly your heart. And with men, how to win a man, show up naked and bring food. And everybody just cracks up, and then and the food is optional.
Yeah,
so, but there's a reason why we're all laughing, even if they're not trying to be funny. It's because they're normalizing stuff. They're talking about stuff that's so common, and just being in that room and hearing that we're not the only ones going through that. You know, we're not some deeply flawed marriage. And yeah, some of them are hanging by a thread.
Yes.
Many of them are hanging by a thread, but many of them, they're not as far gone as they think they are. They've just lost hope because they think, man, my spouse is just an idiot, you know, or she just doesn't get me. And when they start hearing, no, this is normal stuff that everybody has to work. There was just something about the strength in numbers, 2,000 couples in there going, man, we're all in this together, and we can do this. Let's work on this. Yeah. So I love the, you know, like you said, normalizing this stuff.
Yeah. And then also, he talked about, you know, on the triangle of love. I don't remember what he called it, but where he, you know, talked about the one side was the passion, the other part of the triangle was intimacy, and then the other part was commitment.
Did you say one's biological? The passion is biological?
Yes.
Yeah. Intimacy is emotional. Okay. Yeah. You did that. Okay.
But he talked about how, like, you would have like a conversation with your spouse, which when he was talking about this, I thought, how many times you and I have, even on this podcast, talked about pulling away, sitting in the backyard, having intentional conversations, just like this morning doing our vision meeting for the week and for life, you know, just having intentional conversations. And so he said, have this conversation with your spouse. How's your love life? And you could just, you know, say you're sitting down to dinner, you know, you've gone out, and it doesn't have to be such a contentious talk if you like keep that conversation open. You know, it's not like once every year you do it. You know, it's like a once a week thing. But one of you says, okay, how's your love life? And you can grab a piece of paper or a napkin and you chart it. You do like so the line going down the side of the page is like 1 at the bottom all the way to 10 at the top. So 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest, and then at the bottom,
you rate your passion, intimacy, and commitment.
Passion, intimacy, and commitment.
And it's evaluating yourself. That's the key here.
Yeah. So you say, here's where I am.
Yeah.
So babe, here's where I am with passion. If I had to say 1 to 10, where I am with passion, and it's not really anything to do with you. It's how I'm feeling at the moment in my passion, how I'm feeling as far as, our intimacy, and how I'm feeling, on my commitment level. Again, what kind of energy, not just gutting it out commitment, but what kind of energy am I bringing to the marriage? And so just kind of doing a little, rating yourself 1 to 10 where you are, in your love life. And then, kind of just talking about that. It's just a great conversation starter.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a great.
Yeah. And when people hear that and think, oh yeah, that's the conversation starter I want to have at a freaking date. We go out to dinner and we start there. But it's when you start, like you said, that we've done it, kind of the unconscious competent, even though we didn't know what it was called, and we, don't have an app or don't have his book or whatever. Just learning to do these things, and the safer you feel with your spouse, the more open you're going to be. And again, that's obviously, we hear that all the time. A lot of times your spouse has become a place where it's not emotionally safe to sit down and have an honest, talk about how you're feeling. And that's where you may need, to have somebody to help facilitate a conversation, help you have a productive conversation about why that partner's not emotionally safe, why they get defensive, or why they seem like they shut down or stonewall. Maybe they're feeling attacked. That's why they're defensive. Maybe you're coming at them a little strong or with a harsh tone. Maybe your resentment's got the better of you and you can't even see any attempt. So there's so many things that can break that down. But I love if you start practicing that, it can become a lot more natural.
Because I can see where there would be probably lots of seasons in our 35 years of marriage where we could not have really sat down and had a civil conversation about how's our love life. And we would have been defensive. It would have started a fight. And that is I think a major light on the dashboard when you cannot even sit down and have a conversation like this. So I feel like we have definitely moved into the area where it's, we don't get defensive, it's not about you. A lot of times it's about me, I don't feel passionate about in our marriage because I don't really feel passion about my life right now. Or, if I'm not feeling, the intimacy in our marriage, I'm not really feeling, intimacy with God right now, or I'm not super self-aware. I'm super distracted and, too busy or whatever. So a lot of times it comes back to me. It's not just pointing to you, but man, that just having those open conversations can bring so much understanding and so much intimacy, I think, into your marriage. So that's something to shoot for.
Yeah. So, so shifting gears, another couple of the speakers talked about sex, and they talked about, intimacy, but also just sex. And, obviously there's a difference, right? You can have sex and have zero intimacy, and you can have intimacy and have no sex. I love when there's both, right? We want to have both. And so they talked about, and I loved how some of them were just very general, and the one girl got very into the weeds about and diagnosed really why so many couples are not having sex. And, talking about, and we'll come back to that, right? The mental load.
Yes.
I want us to talk about that.
Yeah.
The mental load that many women carry in a marriage and a family. So let's come back to that. I want to start with Nona Jones, not Nora Jones, but Nona Jones, the Dr. Terry Show. You can look that Terri, the Dr. Terry Show podcast, and just go look that up and follow her and just check out her research.
Yeah, I liked how Dr. Terry talked about a lot about hormones.
It was all about
in men and women.
The importance. Yes. There you go. It's about hormones. So that's what I loved, because before we got into the weeds about some of the things that is shutting down intimacy, she just talked about how, and I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she said like 47% of couples report not having had sex in like over a year. I mean, that's how, and the dogs are about to go nuts because somebody just pulled up. But when, so a lot of couples are having less sex in their marriage. And, again, you can point to a lot of different reasons, but one of the reasons is just hormones. Testosterone's very important in men and women. Estrogen is important in men and women. And obviously she talked a lot about oxytocin. Oxytocin is the bonding chemical in our brain, right? And this hormone that's released. Now, we know it's released when you have sex, right? But here's what's interesting. Oxytocin is also released when you have deep breaths, deep breathing. And she said that research shows, and y'all can check us out on this, that a 20-second hug releases as much oxytocin as an orgasm.
That's crazy.
A 20-second hug. And of course, there was lots of jokes around that, and lots of people laughing and around the room.
And then I loved it because she had us stand up and do it. Yeah. And I thought, you know what, 20
Talk about our little hug until you're.
Yeah, so we kind of do that. I don't know if we do 20 seconds, but I don't even know where you heard this, but Brian heard on probably a podcast or something about hug until you're calm. And so sometimes when I'm running around being a busy beaver, as always, you'll just kind of stop me in my, tracks and say, hey, hug until you're calm. And it's not like
funny. I didn't know I taught you that, or I heard that. I thought you brought that to me.
No, I don't think it was me.
Wow.
I think it was
okay.
you.
All right.
Yeah. But who knows?
Yeah.
But it really is not just, it's a very intentional stop what you're doing. Big hug, not side hug like somebody that you just run into that you barely know, but like a full on, bear hug, and just kind of melt into each other, fall into each other. A good hug until you're calm is 20, like 10, 15, maybe 20 seconds.
It's in a long, prolonged hug that most people, you're just used to that quick little pat on the back, and then you release, but you stay in it. And at first it may feel awkward, and you may feel like, this is going a little long, but you feel it when you pass that point of when I'm supposed to kind of let go.
Yeah, like here, pat, we're done. Yeah, you keep going.
You feel your breath. You kind of release your breath. You feel your muscles relax. And this, parasympathetic response, right? You're instead of this fight, flight, or freeze that you can literally change you're changing your brain chemistry. That oxytocin release. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And so, we would urge you all to practice the 20-second hug.
Yeah, so try it. We want to hear what you think. I'd love to hear from anybody that tries the 20-second hug.
But a huge takeaway there is, when. And it's not, most people are thinking because she's a woman or she's Dr. Terry and she talks a lot about women's hormones. It was about men and women, but how we are a sum total of our brain chemistry. And man, the hormones in our body that is released and that when they're out of whack, they're out of whack and there's no cheating it, right? And that's so many people think I don't love my partner or I'm anxious or I'm depressed. And so, I can't sleep. And she started talking about how we're taking, I can't sleep here, take this pill. And no, I'm anxious. So take this pill. I'm depressed. Take this pill. And it's all hormonal. And these people think their life's over. My marriage is over. And what's wrong with me? And they haven't had a libido and they haven't felt close and they felt annoyed. And and she talked about two, couples specifically where the men just came in tears saying, you gave me my wife back. Like you saved our marriage because she put them on, the hormonal therapy that they needed and got them in balance. But that was fascinating because of how many people that she has treated over the years. And that was the change. It wasn't that they needed some kind of deep trauma therapy or some kind of marital intensive. Yeah. It was, they needed their hormones to be balanced.
Yes. That was really cool. Yeah. The story of that doctor that came in, that you were just saying, it was his wife and his daughter had both been in to see her, and she had just helped regulate their their hormones and kind of tell them what was off. And he said, "Thank you for giving me my wife, my daughter, their Mimi, like watching them just come back to life and have energy like they hadn't had." And so then he was like, "Now I got to come see you so I can keep up with them."
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cool. I think there's so much of that happens all throughout our lives, and you kind of poo-poo those things away, you just think, wow, what's wrong with them,
Right.
So
yeah. And then
good information.
So a lot of times that is the thing that needs to be checked out. And so you're thinking, man, something's wrong, something's off. Yeah. And it's so funny. We're quick to go get the antidepressants these days, but I would have your hormones checked.
Yes.
But the other clinician who went into why so many couples just have no interest in having sex. We can talk about having kids, being busy, not feeling sexy. I'm mommy. I'm not, we're not going on date nights anymore. You're not helping me around the house, all kinds of things. We're drifting apart. But she just got very specific. She said she had literally polled over 750 women and done tons of research at Morgan Cutlip, Cutlip. So yeah, Morgan Cutlip. And so I wanted you to talk as a woman about this mental load. She said it's invisible and it's hard to articulate, but the top thing that came out of her research was how these women felt like they were single-handedly carrying the mental load of the family and the stress that caused. And then over time, sometimes just resentment, the lack of energy. And so they was shutting down any desire for having sex with their husband.
And I'll use an example because I can't remember her example because I was thinking of my own as she was talking. But she said, many times, there's so many very quick thoughts that go through a woman's brain when you just think of one thing. So I was thinking of when the kids were younger and I would make their lunch, before they went to school. And let's say I would forget to get, sliced turkey at the store. And then I think, well, so then I don't have what I need to make their lunch. And then, are they not going to feel loved because I just throw some kind of crap into their lunch? And, and then if they don't feel loved by their mom, what kind of things are they going to start getting into, and are they going to grow up and have to go see a counselor because they just felt like their mom never really dedicated enough time or energy to love them. And they may become, promiscuous and, take all of these wounds into a marriage. I mean, all of this stuff from not having what you needed to make their lunch,
right.
Just in or am I over functioning as a mom? Maybe I shouldn't be the one making their lunch. I should be teaching them. I shouldn't be doing it all. And I'm just a crappy mother, And so you have all of these thoughts. That's on one little thing about making your kids lunch for school.
Right.
Well, that's, that can be times a million of other things that happen around. So just managing the home, being a wife, being a mom, being a, business owner or working outside the home, whatever it is you do, the woman just naturally takes on a lot of that mental load. And we know that for a woman to feel like she's in the mood, quote unquote, to have sex, she has to really be in that space. Her mind needs to be free so that she can be freed up to love her husband and be in on that moment. Well, we always have a million tabs open. Mm-hmm. And so when are you ever going to feel it? And right. So how she talked about prepare your mind, get ready for that. What can we do to share that load, to where we don't feel like we're carrying the mental load for the family.
Yeah, and what I loved, it wasn't all about bashing men. You're busy outside the home and you're working, so you come home and you never lift a finger and you're not helping me around the house and you don't know your kids. Mm-hmm. But there were a lot of things though that she said. In other words, she did get on the women's case a little bit too, but. it was that, like, if you're going to take care of some of those things, you have to know, like, you have to intimately know your kids. So it is investing in your kids and your family at a different level, I think. So that was what I was hearing some of the men who were like, and amen and preach it. You know, it was that. It was that feeling that, we could do a way better job at maybe putting down, especially for some of these younger men, putting down the video game controller, turning off Netflix, maybe spending one less night at the softball field or out on the deer lease or in the boat. And really, really plugging in. And, do you know the kids' schedule with the programs that are coming up? Do you know what their homework's, schedule is and the projects that are due? Do you know, when it's meal prep time and what's required for getting everything ready for the week? It's just, and somebody who, like you, is very industrious and so productive, and you like to be busy, and it's hard for you to sit down and relax. It's easy for me to just let you do a lot of that stuff. Literally. Very easy. It's because you just do it, and it's like you're good at it and you enjoy it. But like, even, I don't have to plan trips. Like, you're going to be the one to think about a vacation and planning a trip for us. And I sent you something the other day. I saw it on TikTok. It's like the one spouse who spent months planning the trip, and you're at the airport and they're dragging their luggage. The other spouse is going, now where are we going again?
Yeah, that's
showing up.
That's about right.
But it's that has caused many, many women and men to lack the desire for intimacy and for wanting to have sex. And she talked about how she and her husband went out and this date night, and it's like him not planning the date night, her having to plan the date night. So Jimmy Evans, has famously said for all these years that sex doesn't start in the bedroom. It starts in the morning at the breakfast table, right? And it starts, and it's all day long. You're investing time and interest, curiosity. You're listening.
Yes.
You're plugged in. You're invested. So that was really, really good. I'd say look her up. But before we end today, we're just about out of time. But I wanted to talk about what, like, for me, my favorite part. And, I was probably done and ready to leave, and could have skipped this part really easily. But I'm so glad that we stayed. It was when the couple stood up at the end and said, we want to have you guys stand up, face your partner, hold their hands, and renew your vows. And there's something about that, just the symbolism of repeating those vows and then putting that ring on your finger again and repeating those vows and basically looking at you in the eye after 35 years and saying, in sickness and in health, richer or poor, for better or worse, I still do. And heck yeah, I do.
Yeah,
and there was
too.
just seeing your beautiful blue eyes looking at me and knowing what all we've been through and knowing that you would not trade it for the world.
Right.
And we've chosen each other again and again. And we've had to say, I do again and again. And just being on the upper right side of that inverted bell curve.
Yes. Yeah.
And just being able to cheer on the institution of marriage, cheer on these young couples, cheer on this generation who's afraid to get married, who are getting married less, they're getting married later, and they are giving up really, really easily. It was a beautiful thing, and we're gonna. I'm more committed than ever in hearing Brenton Evans talk about his vision for exo marriage and how they want to increase the marriage rate, decrease the divorce rate, and change families. increase the number of double parent families. Nothing at all disparaging about single parents who are heroic and raising kids and doing the best they can, but the increasing the number of two parent families that is going to be the thing that can truly help kids and generations to thrive. And so lots of work to do out there, and we're more excited than ever to join them in that work. And
it's exciting times to be a part of helping marriages. Can always, it's always an exciting time, but it's fun that you and I are just jumping in head first and sharing what we've learned.
I'm thankful for Brandon and Lindsay for inviting us and giving us this sweet gift. And Jamie, I'm glad that you nudged me and said, "Yeah, let's do this."
Yeah,
because it was really a great time.
Yeah. Well, I love you, babe.
Okay, love you too.